Today, let's understand two very useful and valuable concepts. Number one is how to use more than one relationship between tables. So here, as you can clearly see, there are two relationships between this table and this table. So how do we use this kind of a setup and how to create some sort of a report or data analysis from that? The first concept is using those two relationships. The second one is designing this. I will expand on designing this at a clue level, but I'm going to explain the two relationship part in detail. For the purpose of this, I have got some insurance policy data and attached it to a calendar table. Let me quickly show you this policy data. So this is the data. I've downloaded this from a publicly available data source. I will link to that in the video description as well. And here we have got about 500,000 insurance policy details. These policies have two dates: the date on which the insurance began and the date on which it ended. And then many other details about this. We are not really analyzing anything else. We are really keen to understand how many policies are opened in a specific point of time, like a calendar year or a quarter or a month, and how many are closed in that same period of time, and what is the net gain or loss of policies for our company. So we could, of course, then slice it by, for example, vehicle make or usage or product year or premium or some other analysis can be done, but I'm not really doing that. So as you can see here, we have got two date columns and we would like to analyze that and combine that with a calendar table. So this is the calendar table. The data here spans from 1 July 2014 to 30th of June 2019. So about 6 years worth of data is there. And I've generated this calendar table for the purpose of analysis. This calendar table I made, but the actual policy data came from an online source. So once I have these data sets, what I did is I went to Power BI and I loaded both of these data sets. I'm just going to go into Power Query quickly so you can see if I have done any transformations on this data. As you can see, the policies table is loaded as is. I've promoted the headers and filtered one row that had some very weird values in the column. I think the CSV had an error, so some own goods is coming in as the sex column. So I've removed that and applied data type changes, and I have added a unique identifier for each policy. Otherwise there's no way to tell them apart. So there's no ID number. So I added that and I renamed that as policy unique ID. So this is our data. I think there is an object ID here. We could have used that, but I used the unique identifier. And then we have got the calendar table. This one also no real transformations or anything. It's data as is. So once this data is here, I have loaded that and I have made two relationships. The first one is between insurance beginning date and the calendar date. And the second relationship is between insurance end date and the calendar date. Now, when you have more than one relationship between two tables, only one can stay active at a time. So by default, the first one that we created became active, and this is my inactive relationship. You can also verify this by right clicking and going to the properties, and you will see that this option here, make this relationship active, is unchecked for the second relationship because it's an inactive relationship. You can't have more than one active relationship between two tables at any point of time. So then I went to the report view. I'm gonna build some of those measures here, show them to you. So I created a simple policy count measure, which is nothing but count rows of my policies table. If I just see this measure, policy count, I'll see that there is 508,000 policies. Now what I want to do is I want to slice this into two versions. One is how many policies are opened and how many are closed. If you observe the Excel data set itself, we can see this here. Every policy that has a beginning is having an end date. So technically the number of policies opened is equal to number of policies closed. There is no blank values here. All the policies have terminated, as this is a historical snapshot data set. The problem is this is at a gross level. But if I, for example, take this number and turn this into a column chart and slice it by something like year, we will see how many policies we had over the period of our data set. So 2014, this many policies, 15, 16, like that. Now the problem here is for each of these values, instead of seeing this number, I want to see how many policies had their opening date in 2014 and how many policies had their closing date in 2014. The opening date is same as policy count because our active relationship is based on insurance beginning date. So if I don't do anything, the value that I'm seeing in this visual is nothing but how many policies are opened in that year. For calculating the closed ones, what we do need is a separate measure. So here I have actually created two measures, two versions of this: policies opened count and policies closed count. So policies opened count is nothing but policy count, as this is equal to that because of the active relationship. Policy closed count is where we calculate the policy count but activate the second relationship using this special DAX formula called use relationship. What this does is it takes an inactive relationships and make that active. For this to work, you need to specify the columns again. You say calendar date should be mapped to insurance end, and this will use that relationship and calculate that and tell you that. So as of that context, this will be shown. So now if I take this and we are using the clustered one and add the closed count and open count and take out the original one, you'll see how many policies are opened versus closed. So closed is the dark red here. I'm gonna just quickly change these colors so that it looks interesting. So I'm gonna change the closed to, for example, red, and then open to green color. So we can kind of see. Yeah. So every year, this is how many policies are being opened, and this is how many is being closed. So if the gap between these two is the net policy gain. In case the green bar is bigger, that means we gained more policies that year. But as you can see in 2018 and 2019, the green bar is much lower, hence we are losing more policies. If you're wondering why this is happening, this is because of snapshot data. So automatically, as we reach the end, we don't have any policies that began in 2019 because that data is not there. So this is why that weird behavior is coming up. Same with the beginning data because the data began in 2014. So this is the trick here. Whenever you have got more than one relationship between table, you would use the use relationship inside a calculate to activate that relationship and recalculate things as if that is the active one. So that's the trick. Once you have that, you can use this technique for example, finding out how many tickets were opened in a specific month and how many are closed in the specific month and what is the change, or any of those kind of things, tickets or claims or insurance policies or anything where more than one relationship is required between tables. So once that is there, then what I did is I have set it up as a nice graph here. In this graph, you can see that we are seeing how many policies are opened and closed for every year and every quarter. So this is a quarterly breakdown, and because we have open and close, I calculated another measure called net policies change. This is basically number of opened minus number of closed will be net policies changed. At an overall level, this will be 0 because every policy that is opened is closed. But when I slice this by, for example, a month and a calendar year, I can see in each month how many extra policies we are gaining in our population, and as the years progress, we are losing more policies because, again, as I said, we don't have the data set for the full picture. So to make this kind of a matrix table, what I did is I used the matrix visual, and in this matrix I have added year into columns and month into rows. So every year, every month will come in there, and in this I added the net policies change. So we see the number. Now I don't want to really see the number like that. I want to see it in the nearest 1000. To format that while keeping this visual selected, we go to the properties area, click on data format and select net policies change. And from here, instead of a general format, I'm going to use a custom format code, and the format code would be hash, comma, hash, hash, comma, dot 0k. So that's basically going to show me the value in 1000. So if I don't want to see the decimal point, I can directly say k like that. And I think we need to say is dot, then it'll show that in the thousands directly. But I did use 1 decimal point, and let's use lowercase k. So now that they show up in thousands format, I want to actually color code each cell based on how big or small that number is. To do that, we can use conditional formatting. Right click on the values area here and then go to conditional formatting, background color. This is going to open the gradient background color. I'm going to add a middle color, and let's set the lowest value to, lowest values will be our red color. So I'm going to use this kind of a red color, and highest value, let's use some sort of a green. For the middle value, we are going to go to more colors and pick up some sort of a yellow color like that. And this is going to give us a diverging scale. You may want to tweak these colors to kind of get the messaging right. And this is how that's going to look. Now you can see that the values where there is no value, for example, all the 6 months of 2014, first 6 months and these months, it's going to show default color. So I'm going to go back to conditional formatting again, background color. And how should we format empty values as 0? Instead of 0, I'm going to change this to don't format and click OK. So those cells won't have the formatting. So now that the formatting is done, let's tidy this up so that it looks like a proper matrix rather than something silly. For this, what we will do is we will select this and go to the visual and grid options and adjust the row padding from 1 pixel to, let's start with something like 6 pixels. That makes the cells big enough. And global font size, I'm going to tone it down to 8 points or maybe 9 points, depending on how big of a screen you have. And then I'm gonna take out the row subtotals. So we don't need, oh sorry, I think we need, we don't need the column subtotals, just the row subtotals needed. For every year we can see the total. And then we can kind of tidy up so that there is no alternating color. There's lots of different options here. What we will do is we'll go to values and take out the background color so that there's no background color there. And we would need to do that for row headers, no background color, and column headers, no background color, so just the white color. And then I think we'll need to go back here and let's add both horizontal and vertical grid lines. The grid lines will be kind of like a gray color. I'm gonna I think just leave it like that for now, and go to the border options and take out the border as well. I think maybe the border will be this color like that. So this is like a nice little matrix. I tweaked that a little bit more so the colors are kind of inverted. This is having gray color instead of that white color there, but that's the difference. And the other thing that I also did is I adjusted the midpoint, so the midpoint is actually taking yellow color. So instead of by default, what we did is we right click, go to conditional formatting, background color, and instead of middle value I said custom, and this should be actually 0. So all the negatives will take this kind of a red color and all the positives will take the greener color, and exactly this value will be 0. So that's basically what we are doing here. I think I saved that background color custom 0. Okay, so now it kind of adjusts some of this coloring so we can get a better sense of where the higher values and where the lower values are. If you are enjoying this video, you're gonna love my complete Power BI course. In this course, I have been helping people like you understand and build really complicated and amazing business reports, data analysis, and BI solutions using Power BI. I've got a special offer for people who watch my videos on YouTube. So use the code SAVE100 to get up to $100 discount on my Power BI plus Excel combo pack, or $50 on just the Power BI course. That already makes the course even more valuable. In this course, we are going to cover everything right from Power Query all the way up to advanced DAX, visual building, storytelling, dashboards, and advanced Power BI tricks. You really want to check this out if you want to up your Power BI game. Again, the details are in the video description. Don't forget to use the code SAVE100. I'll catch you in the program. So let's continue with the video. The final trick in this report, this is something that took me a while to figure out, is how to show individual years as cards up top. For this, there are a couple of things that I did. I'm going to show you the wrong approach that didn't work because I think Power BI visuals have some bugs in them, and then the right approach of how I did that. So let's start with the wrong approach. For the wrong approach, let's just move these guys up top. Use the new card visual. If you don't really have it, you should definitely enable go to settings. You can either click on the settings button here or go to file options and settings and options and go there. From here, go to the preview feature and enable the new card visual. I think somewhere here, new card visual. You do require that, otherwise you won't be able to get this. So once this is there, we're gonna add the new card, and this new card, what I want is I want to see how many policies we have added, how many we closed, and what is the net change. That is what I want to see for every year. So initially, this is what I did. I just added open count, close count, net policy change. So 3 values, as you can see at a gross level, this will be 0. Now you can see that for this new card visual, there is a small multiples option as well. So we can use this to slice this by year or quarter or product category or something like that. So if I put year there, this is gonna kind of generate one version of the card for every year. If you're wondering what this 2K is, that's actually the year 2014, 15, like that. It is rounding up that to thousands for some very weird reason, but that's what it is. And it is only showing me 3 values, but there's more than 3. And you can see there's a scroll button here that you can use. So initially I thought we could use this because this will be easier than individually designing them. So we select this and we go to the small multiples layout. Instead of a single column, I want to see this all in single row like that with 6 values because we have got 6 rows. So each year will be one big box, and within the big box, all the 3 numbers will be like 3 smaller boxes. While keeping this selected, you can then go to the layout, and the layout of individual cards, instead of a single row, there will be single column. So they will be basically vertically stacked like that. Let's just make this 0 pixels so they don't really, and tweak some of these things. So for example, if I make them 24 pixels big, we can kind of see everything now, right? This is what I initially wanted. The problem with this is this was looking blocky and kind of like clunky, and I didn't really like it. There's a second bigger problem. The second bigger problem is I wanted to actually color these values using some sort of a conditional formatting. So if it is positive, I want to show this in green color, and if it is negative, I want to show those values in red color. That's really the cherry on this cake that I want to put. Unfortunately, again, this is not really working because I think when we use small multiples with the new card visuals, the conditional formatting of the visuals has some sort of bugs because it's not consistently applying, and it was doing something very weird. I think the context transition is not happening. And I was not really happy with the way it is looking. It was kind of looking very blocky and clunky. So this is the wrong approach. Now let's try the right approach. The right approach, what I did is, it's kind of silly, but it really works. I made one card, and in this card, I'm going to add policies opened. So this is how many policies we opened across the board. While keeping this selected, in the filters panel here, I'm going to add a year filter for that visual and set this to 2014. So we can see this card, what is the number of policies that opened in 2014. Go back to this card again, and we'll tweak some of these things later. For now, let's add a reference label. So the reference labels that I want to add are, I want to add policies closed and net policies change. So all this information comes in here. So 66 total policies, 351 is how many we closed that year, and that means we gained 66. Now what I want to do is I want to highlight this 66 in green color because it's positive, and if it's a different year, then it will be red color if it is negative. To do that, what we will then have to do is go here and select the label and select net policies change, and for that specific label, turn off the value. So it doesn't have a value, but enable detail. And in the detail, again add the net policies change. So now what happens is these two things come up as two separate elements. this one is coming from the value itself, and that's coming in from the detail. It kind of looks roundabout, but now this is individual element that can be styled. So now that this detail is there, I can change the background color for that. What I want is a very simple coloring mechanism. Positives should be green color, negatives should be in red color. So for this, I have created a simple measure that basically tells me what color to use. Net policies change color. If net policies change is negative, that means less than 0. This is the hex code, else that is the hex code. So this hex code is the red color and that hex code is the green color. So then we select this, click on the FX button and use the field value option and set the net policies change color option there. Click OK and boom, because it's positive, it comes up in nice green color. So now that is the card that works. It works for 2014. I can copy this, Control V to paste it and select the second card and simply change this from 14 to 15 and I'll have a separate card. There is another problem with this. The problem is we don't know which year this card is for. This card is for 2014 and this is for 2015, but there is no visual indication anywhere that that's what this is. So I wanted to have a clear title here. So what I did is I created a measure called year for the cards, and then this measure is policies in ampersand selected value of the calendar year. For any individual card, the context of that card would be a single year. So this value will be that year. So essentially this will be policies in 2014, policies in 2015. So to do that, we are going to select this card, go to the visual callout values and add a conditional label. By default, you can't add it like this. So what you need to do is you need to select the policies opened count value itself. And for that, the label is not auto, but it should come from the field value of policies, year for the cards, that measure. So now you can see that that one says policies in 2014. I'm going to delete this, Control C, Control V again. This time for this one, if I change this to 2015, you'll see that it says policies in 2015. Boom, everything works beautifully. Let's test this for 2018 when we had a negative change, and you can see that that comes in nicely in red color. There are some other things as well. We need to make sure that it looks nice and slick, so I formatted it obviously. To do the formatting, select this thing again and go to the layout, go to the cards itself and shape from rectangle. I changed it to rounded rectangle with 10 pixels of roundness. So that's that. And then for the reference labels, we are gonna select all and disable the divider. So everything is like one big block. So okay, that looks good. I can size this now and that's how big that is. We can adjust the text sizes and all, but that's basically the thing there. And then we can start by adding some background color. Let's add a background color of white for, not that. I'm gonna start by adding in the card itself, the background of white color. So that's that. The border also, I'm gonna make it white so that that just shows up like that. And I'm gonna add a shadow effect and kind of tweak it until I'm happy. And that is one card. So now one card is working. We can copy paste it and change the visual filter to different years. So that's really how I created 6 cards. Once all the 6 are created, I selected all of them and right clicked to create a group so that they all be treated like one group. So if I'm moving them or anything, they will all move together. Once that is done, then I kind of adjusted the formatting for these 2 visuals as well. So they also have these rounded borders and a little bit of shadow effect so that everything feels like they're together. Made sure that they're aligned properly, and we have a nice little report on our policies and how they changed over time. I added one other minor tweak, which is if I select any specific item in this grid, you'll see that the top thing doesn't change. For this, I have used custom interactions. So to set this up, if I select this visual, then we can go to format and click on edit interactions. So edit the interactions, and you can see that for this visual, all of these interactions are set to none. You can see that they're all having this stop light, whereas this visual is not set to do that. So that means whenever I click on these things, this visual responds, but not those. I repeated the same from here as well. So when I select this, these visuals don't change, but this one does. That's pretty much it. Once I'm done, I can uncheck the edit interaction so that that mode goes off, and we have this nice, beautiful policy change dashboard. I hope you liked this. It took me a while to figure out all the nuts and bolts of this, but it was really fun designing this, and I really wanted to share it with you so that you can also understand the technique behind creating more than one relationship between tables and using that to tell better stories about your data. Let me know what you think about this and how you plan to use this technique elsewhere in your data analysis journey in the comments below. I'll catch you again somewhere else. Bye.